Everything I'm showing you is 100% plant-based. It's so delicious and super easy to do.
I take the sweetness of the weather, keep the mood light as a feather, add the salt, add the pepper, mix my heart and soul together, cause it's better this way. Yeah, yeah.
Hi guys, welcome to the Brook 101, where I'm showing you some of the recipes we've developed at the Brook restaurant over the past 7 years. I'm filming this during lockdown in a warehouse that is definitely not designed to be a studio by myself on equipment that is definitely not designed to make great recipe videos, but I'm doing it anyway because I want to show you just how easy it is to be able to cook this kind of food at home. And today I'm going to show you a recipe that really showcases just how easy this can be and just how seamlessly this can fit in to replace foods that you're used to eating on a traditional diet. So for me, when I went plant-based, a lot of people talk about cheese being the most difficult thing. For me, it was actually eggs. I was egg obsessed. I had eggs for breakfast pretty much every day, any which way. I loved boiled eggs, scrambled eggs, fried eggs, like anything. I just loved eggs so much. I really relied on them for that really hearty breakfast, a good protein hit in the morning to get me started. So I did find it really difficult to give up my eggs. So that's one of the reasons that I worked so hard on getting this recipe right so it could replace those breakfasts. And now, this is just a complete breakfast staple in our house because it's so quick and easy, so filling and satisfying, and you can use it in loads of different ways too. So I'll often make a few extra and then leave some over to put into a different recipe. So the recipe I'm showing you is chickpea omelettes. Now before I show you, I think it's important to say it's called an omelette, but it's obviously not made with eggs, and I'd say it's somewhere kind of between an omelette and a pancake. So I don't want you to go into this thinking that I'm going to recreate something that's exactly like an omelette. I think sometimes the pictures show it, they look just like an omelette and people talk about them. You actually get your hopes up, or I guess not get your hopes up, but just set your expectations, something different that's going to come out. So I think it's quite important to recognise that up front. But they do look kind of like omelettes, and you use them in the same way as omelettes. They taste quite like omelettes, so I can see why they get called omelettes. But you can refer to it as an omelette or a pancake, whatever you like. We don't worry about labels, do we? We're just going to make a really delicious breakfast. So the main ingredient in these chickpea omelettes is actually chickpea flour, which is sometimes called gram flour. And it's this sort of, slightly custardy coloured flour. And it's really light. So, if you come across this and you've got it, if you use it for things like a batter, it always creates a really nice light batter. So it's going to help give us that sort of light, fluffy feel to our omelette. And then we're going to flavour it up. It's got quite an earthy taste, I'd say, for a flour. So we're going to flavour it up just to lighten it up. And the star is going to be this Kala Namak, which I've spoken about loads before. It's often called Indian black salt or Himalayan black salt. And it is actually black when it's a full rock crystal. But when it gets ground down, it goes this kind of pinky purple colour like this. And this salt has super high sulfur content, and that gives it that eggy taste and smell. So for anything that we're trying to do where we want to recreate an egg-based dish, Kala Namak, Indian black salt, that is your babe. So we're going to put some of that in. We've got, as a teaspoon there, we've got a teaspoon of mixed dried herbs, which give this just a really nice flavour, like savoury flavour. We've got a teaspoon of baking powder, and that's going to help give us more of a light, fluffy pancake. I've got a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, which I think really helps to balance out the flavour of the gram flour. And we're just going to add water to that and cook it in our pan. So first thing to do is just mix all your dry ingredients together. So I've got 125 grams of gram flour in here. So in goes our Indian black salt, mixed herbs, and our baking powder. And actually, because this is so quick, I'm going to get the pan onto heat whilst we're at it. I'm going to put it just above the middle setting. I do find anything like this when you're cooking pancakes or omelettes, the pan can be a bit temperamental. Your first one works, the next one doesn't, or vice versa. I think you've just got to keep an eye on it and keep tweaking to get it right. Just get those, make sure they get really nicely mixed. Okay. Now when you add your water, Very important tip. Don't put it all in at once because you will just have a swimming pool of chickpea flour and you'll be chasing lumps around it. I've done that enough times to know not to do it. So maybe put in about a third to half, and it means you can form a thicker sort of batter or paste, I guess, and use that to really get the lumps out of the mixture. So as soon as you add the water, you can smell the kalanamak giving off that eggy smell. And then just keep adding your water a bit at a time until it's all in there. You can see it starts to bubble up as the baking powder activates. And really make sure, while it's nice and thick like this, just really make sure that you get all your lumps out, because once it gets a bit thinner, it gets harder to do that. So that's the last of the water in, so I'm going to pop in that teaspoon of apple cider vinegar as well. So you can see it's actually really light and liquidy. So quite different to if you were making like a pancake batter or something. Now we're going to want to lightly oil the pan. It really is just to make sure that the omelette doesn't stick to the pan. So you just want to make sure it's fully covered. And then you don't want to put in too much batter at once. So we're going to make it quite thin. I'm using a small pan just to be able to demonstrate a bit better, but I'd normally use a big pan for this. But what you want to do is have your mixture and hold your pan in one hand so you can move it around. And just once it's coated like that, let it settle and just make sure you've run it all round the edge like that. And really our job now is to just not fiddle with it too much. Same as I say with pancakes, you really want to just let it do its thing. So it's going to start cooking on the underneath and you'll be able to see around the edges when it starts to dry out, start to cook a bit. And we'll be able to start testing it to see when it's ready to flip over. Now I would recommend for this bit that you use both a palette knife and a fish slice, because you're going to want something really light and gentle to lift up the edges, but when you need to get underneath, I find the palette knife can easily go through it because they are really delicate. If you don't have a palette knife, you can just, use a normal flat knife out of your cutlery set. Okay, so you can see that it's just lifting up nicely. And then we'll slide the fish slice under to see if it can withstand being flipped, which I think it can. Look at that. So that, you can completely see why they get compared to omelettes. I mean, even, just on that side, and that first side that's been cooked is often the driest anyway, because now the other side we don't need to leave for as long. So really, it started to cook up through the bottom anyway, so once it's just hit that hot pan, it's not far off cooked on the other side. So I'm just going to flip that in half to see if it's done. That is one omelette done and ready. So I'm just going to re-oil my pan. Again, a really tiny bit just to make sure it doesn't stick. With the mixture. And one thing I love about these pancakes is because it's made with chickpea flour, it's just pure protein. So for the morning, it's just such a great filling breakfast, and you can have it with anything. You cook off, saute some mushrooms. You could do a full cooked breakfast. So if it's the weekend and you want to have some vegan sausages and tomato and beans, and this can be your egg element of the dish. I love having omelette style dishes with Asian flavors. So I'll often add sweet chili sauce and coriander and fresh lime. I love chili and those kind of flavors for breakfast. And as I say, once these are cooked, if you've got any left over, you can also then chop them up and use them in other dishes. So I'm going to show you on one of my recipe videos how to use it to make an egg fried rice, which is just amazing, so like the real thing. Okay. So the edges are lifting. Let's see if it's ready to flip. Perfect. As an alternative to flipping, you could take the pan and pop it under the grill at that stage. You can obviously load these as well. So I'll do another recipe video where I'll show you how to make more like a Korean style pancake where you put stir-fried vegetables into it and do it with a dipping sauce. But you could also use it to make more of a frittata. So if you wanted to put like, potatoes and peppers and onion and things into the pan and then fill it up with the omelette mixture and cook the underside and then transfer it to the grill, that would work super well as well. There you have it. Chickpea omelettes, very quick to both mix and make. High protein, delicious, eggy breakfast, fully plant-based. Give it a go. Let me know how you get on, and if you get stuck at all, if you have any questions, let me know.